We just bought this piece of land in hopes of turning it into this. I'm about to go over the entire process of buying this land, from the finding of the land to the negotiation to finding out if this is really worth buying. So, how do we do it? How do we find the land? Most people will only look at the MLS when trying to find some property. I mean, I do too, I look at it all the time. A lot of good deals do come through HAR. However, there is an issue with that. By the time the owner places his or her land in the MLS, they've already consulted with a real estate agent who has extensively looked at the market and probably priced it a little bit higher than it needs to be. Now, it's crucial to do these two things. One, you gotta know the area well. And two, you gotta drive it around always, constantly. Now, in our case, this was pretty easy since we're building in the area. We currently have 5 other projects around here, one of which is Elysium at Rachel, right here, which just finished development, construction, and is now sold out. I just realized I can see all my stuff here behind me. I don't usually drive around like this, but I'm moving back up to Baylor tomorrow for my last year of college, and so I packed up my car. So anyways, we know the area pretty well. We're constantly driving it, and one day we see a sign, but the sign that we saw was actually not up anymore. It had been laid down probably by someone wanting to buy the lot and diminish competition in the negotiation process. So it's my dad who sees it. He sends me the number and I try to call him to try to snag the piece of land real quick. The negotiation process went pretty smoothly. They were motivated sellers, and even though I might have suspected that someone knocked a sign over, they didn't really hint towards that. They were asking for $1,600. I got the owner on the phone. It was pretty straightforward, saying we were willing to offer $145, and after a few minutes of negotiation, we got it locked in at $150. There was a problem though. There always is. He wasn't the sole owner. It was him and his 2 siblings. And let's just say that the one I was talking to was probably the more motivated one. He had to then go to his party and convince them to sell at the price that he had already agreed to, which is never a good thing. However, they all agreed, and we got it signed for $150. Dodged the bullet right there. So we all signed. We wanted to use our title company. They wanted to use theirs. We say no problem, we use theirs. They also say they didn't want to pay realtor fees. We said no problem. Well, my dad said no problem. I'm the real estate agent, so just a little bit of a problem. But it's no big deal, no realtor fees. I'm just facilitating the transaction, and we go to closing. Now let's back up and look at why exactly we wanted this piece of land. I guess I should clarify something. I keep using the word we. I'm just a real estate agent. I'm not really buying anything. My family has a few small businesses, all pertaining to real estate, from the development of the land to the construction of the land, and then I'm the realtor that sells it. So there's a leasing portfolio, the buyer and developer of the homes, who then hire Elysium Builders, the builder, to build the homes, and then they hire me, Now Got Property, to sell their homes. So yeah, I'm not really buying anything. However, I am pretty involved in the development process, and I feel like all this information is worth expanding on. Right, so why did we want this property? Okay, so right after we found it, before even sending over an offer or anything, we sent the piece of land to our architect and engineer to try to figure out how many houses exactly could fit there. So they look through it, they look at the city regulations, and they come up with a consensus that we could fit 5 houses there, all front loader, which is great because now we don't have to have a street right in the middle. Each one of them with a total living space of around 1,700 square feet, which is pretty common in that area. So if we bought for $150,000 divided by 5, that's $30,000 per lot. Now that's a little high for that area. Just a year ago, we were buying land for $5 to $10 a square foot, leaving us with around $10,000 to $15,000 per lot. But land and property values have risen over the past few years. That, along with the fact that they're front loader houses and we won't have to spend money on the development of the street in the middle, makes us pretty confident we're going to be able to get our value back on the selling of the homes. All right, so $30,000 per lot. Now that's not the real cost. You then have all the soft costs, which, here we go, you ready? There's a replat, which is pretty much the subdividing of the land. Then there's the architectural plans. Then there's the land engineering, which is usually the soil tests and the civil plans. In this case though, the civil plans aren't quite as extensive because we don't have to have that street in the middle. Then there's the building engineer, which is pretty much the information about the structure, the cables underneath, everything to make the structure stable. Then there's all the city's fees, which include the permit fees and the impact fees. The impact fees are those fees that you pay the city for them to provide you with the utilities like gas, electric, and water. Now, these soft costs, along with further development fees that allow you to actually have those utilities in the land, come up to about another $25,000. So we have $30,000 plus $25,000, that's $55,000 per lot as of now. But then there's the cost of money, the financing cost, which even if we're not using credit to buy this land, it's worth evaluating, just because if you're not buying this, you could be spending money on other things that will give you another return. In this case, it's going to be around $3,600, making our total cost, drum roll please, $58,600 per lot. Nice. Especially nice because we know that this lot, ready to build, is worth closer to $70,000. This means that if we didn't choose to build, or we didn't have a building company, and we instead wanted to sell it to a company that will build it for themselves, we could probably get around $70,000. So Elysium portfolio, without getting into the building side, in this transaction made $11,400 per lot, or $57,000 as profit in the development process. Now, to wrap this video up, I just talked about the whole process of the development before we even get to the construction. Now, this process can take up to a year, and we're still currently in it. And I know y'all probably want to see how much Elysium Builders will then make on the construction of these 5 units, and not only that, but how much I, as Got Property, will make on the selling of them. Yeah, of course you do. I do too. So make sure to subscribe if you want to learn alongside me. Drop a like, drop a comment if you have something to say, and before you go, I have a quick question for you. Got Property?